Wars are not only decided by battles, they are decided by moments. Brief windows in time when the enemy is broken, disoriented, and vulnerable, when history offers a chance that may never return. In the autumn of 1944, the Western Allies were given such a moment, and they let it pass. By September 1944, the German army in Western Europe was not retreating. It was unraveling. The destruction of German forces in the Falaise pocket had been catastrophic. Entire divisions were shattered. Equipment lay abandoned across the roads of France. Survivors fled east in chaos, often without heavy weapons, fuel, or coherent command. Field Marshal Walter Model, tasked with stabilizing the front, faced an impossible reality. His armored formations barely existed. Many divisions existed only on paper. Fuel shortages crippled mobility. Artillery was scarce. Communications were fractured. Later, German generals would speak with remarkable candor. Gerd von Rundstedt admitted that Germany was, at that moment, effectively defenseless in the West. General Gunther Blumentritt described September 1944 as the darkest military moment of the entire war. The road to the Rhine and beyond lay dangerously open. Berlin was no longer a distant dream. It was a possibility. Allied forces advanced rapidly across France. Paris had been liberated. Belgium was falling. The German border loomed ahead. Patton's Third Army moved with breathtaking speed. His armored columns pushed east relentlessly, bypassing resistance, exploiting confusion, and driving deep into German-held territory. German officers later admitted they feared Patton more than any other Allied commander. His unpredictability, his aggression, his refusal to pause. These qualities terrified an enemy already on the brink of collapse. Had the Allies struck decisively at this moment, had they concentrated their strength on a single, overwhelming thrust, the war in Europe might have ended before winter. Instead, it slowed. At the center of this moment stood General Dwight D. Eisenhower. Supreme Commander of Allied forces, Eisenhower was not just a general. He was a coalition leader, a political balancing act in uniform. Faced with success, Eisenhower made a critical decision. He rejected a narrow, concentrated drive toward the Ruhr, the industrial heart of Germany. Instead, he chose what became known as the Broad Front strategy. The Allies would advance everywhere, simultaneously, across a wide front stretching hundreds of kilometers. No single spearhead, no decisive concentration, no knockout blow. On paper, it sounded reasonable. In reality, it diluted momentum. Eisenhower's decision was not driven purely by military logic. It was political. The Allied coalition was fragile. British and American commanders clashed constantly. Bernard Montgomery demanded priority for his forces in the North. George Patton demanded fuel and freedom to exploit the South. Choosing one would alienate the other. A narrow thrust risked political fracture. A broad front preserved unity. Eisenhower chose harmony over risk. But war does not reward compromise. Logistics became the silent killer of Allied momentum. Fuel, ammunition, spare parts. All had to be distributed across multiple armies instead of concentrated where they could break the enemy. Patton's tanks, poised to strike deep into Germany, ran dry. Columns halted not because of resistance, but because of empty fuel tanks. German commanders watched in disbelief as the Allies stopped, voluntarily. Blumentritt later called it a strategic gift. Time, 6 priceless weeks. Those weeks saved the Third Reich. With the front stabilized, Germany rebuilt. New defensive lines were formed, including the revitalized Siegfried Line. Fresh units were rushed to the front, poorly trained, often under-equipped, but numerous. Factories, still operating despite bombing, produced weapons at a frantic pace. Reserves were scraped together. Fuel was rationed. Plans were drawn. Most importantly, the initiative shifted. The hunted was no longer running blindly. It was preparing to strike back. The consequences were brutal. The Battle of the Hurtgen Forest, one of the longest and bloodiest engagements fought by American forces, dragged on for months. Dense woods, fortified positions, freezing weather. Thousands died for ground that offered little strategic value. German generals later stated plainly, this battle would never have occurred if the Allies had broken through in September. And then came something even worse. In December 1944, Germany launched its last gamble, the Ardennes Offensive, known to history as the Battle of the Bulge. It was made possible by the pause of autumn. Troops, fuel, and equipment had been gathered in secrecy. Units repositioned. Plans refined. Had the Allies crossed the Rhine in September, there would have been no reserves left to launch such an attack. No bulge, no surprise, no desperate winter bloodbath. Instead, tens of thousands of soldiers, American, British, German, were killed or wounded in snow-covered forests that never needed to become battlefields.